up on Zeke's question on the manufacturer liability bill, the president just said that if God granted him one item on his to-do list, it would be to get this done, to make it so that gun manufacturers can be held liable. It is something he promised on day one. It is day 78. What's the holdup here?
There's no holdup. It just legislation needs to be reintroduced. There are a number of members in Congress who are strong advocates for exactly what the president supports, share his view about the impact, and we're certainly hopeful and encourage them to move forward on that legislation, reintroduce it.
But the president promised to send his own plan. You know, it's clear that you're waiting to see how this works its way through Congress, but why not put out your own bill, lead the charge on this?
He is leading the charge by advocating for this moving forward, by using the bully pulpit of his presidency and of the Rose Garden to advocate for this legislation moving forward. It is the role of Congress, of course, to push legislation forward, to vote on it, to move it through committees, and he certainly is hopeful they'll do exactly that on this issue.
The president did suggest recently that, you know, tackling this is a long-term issue, as he put it. Given the recent shootings, does he still see it that way? Does he still see this as a long-term issue?
I think he certainly sees it as an issue that we won't solve overnight. So yes, he sees and is encouraged by the actions that we've seen across states. Take red flag laws as an example. There are 19 states. Many have implemented those laws in just the last few years. We know that they're impactful. In many places, there's bipartisan support for that. One of the announcements he made today was that we will be putting forward guidance to make it easier for states to put forward those laws. He knows that sometimes the first action doesn't happen at the federal level. It can happen at the state level. We've certainly seen that on a range of issues, and we've seen that on gun safety legislation as well. So he's encouraged by that, but knows that it can be a long journey.
And has he been in touch with Leader Schumer about the next steps forward, especially on these bills that have passed the House?
He, as you know, he's regularly in touch with Leader Schumer, who shares his commitment and concerns about the impact of gun violence on our communities, on this country, and they certainly discuss this among a range of other issues.
The president does actually have it here, the list of all the promises that he made during the campaign of gun actions that he wanted to take. Obviously, you're doing what you think you can unilaterally, waiting for these measures to work its way through Congress. Does the president feel that he's doing everything he can to meet the scope of these commitments right now?
Well, today the administration announced initial actions to address gun violence. There will be more. That is absolutely his commitment. And he also will use the power of his presidency, his voice, his political will to advocate for actions in Congress. He also recognizes that there are incredible roles to be played by many of the gun safety groups and leaders that were here today who have helped pass laws in states across the country on everything from background checks to red flag laws, efforts that have had a measurable impact in states to reduce incidents of gun violence, of homicide, of suicide as a result of guns. So he will remain engaged with those groups and those leaders as well, and he will work on this through many levers. Go ahead, Caitlin.
With these ghost guns, they can basically be bought, printed, and assembled at home. So how is the president confident that this rule can be enforced?
Well, it's a rule that is being put in place by the Department of Justice. It is certainly a step to make that more difficult, to regulate an area of gun production that has not been regulated previously. So it's something that will have to be worked through law enforcement officials around the country, through the Department of Justice.
Right, but if you're doing it at your house, how are they going to know to be able to enforce that?
Well, there's the purchase of kits, of course, that's part of it, but certainly putting in place steps to make it more difficult, to make it harder, to regulate the ability to gain access to ghost gun kits is certainly a step forward, in our view.